According to CNN Business's Fear and Greed Index, the markets are currently in extreme fear, and that is the primary emotion driving the market right now. Whether you agree with this or not, it is what they are showing on their indicator, which is really interesting. And they have a lot of other fear and greed indicators that are also showing fear, extreme fear, and pretty much a lot of volatility, possibly, certainly in the qualitative data about the markets, and also showing up in the quantitative data about the markets. And this fear and greed index is a way to gauge stock market movements and whether stocks are fairly priced. And it's a compilation of all these indexes. But what I want to talk about is really why there seems to be this huge fear in the markets and extreme fear despite stocks being at all-time highs, right? There has been a lot of discussion about trade wars, and US President Donald Trump actually threatened the 100% tariff, and that has brought a lot of negative sentiment to the markets. There's been lots of volatility with the VIX, which is the Wall Street fear gauge, that has gained 9%, gained 9% on Tuesday, and it's been rising. And that's really kind of like the pulse of the market. And this is, all happening at the same time of all-time market highs, but companies like NVIDIA, one of the largest companies in the S&P 500, has been caught in this volatility a little bit, sinking 4.4% on Tuesday. But despite this, there's still companies coming out with increasing revenue, increasing profits, and showing good fundamentals, but despite a lot of this smoke coming on in terms of sentiment. One company in particular, TSMC, which is Taiwan Semiconductor, they are the world's largest chip manufacturer, and they actually reported net profit of 39% year over year increasing, and they also had a record high revenue, rose 30% year over year. So despite this fear, there are still companies coming out, Q3 earnings are approaching, and despite this, they are coming out and showing good growth. And I know there are lots of talks about this circular AI economy where everything is just being pushed up and up and up until we maybe one day get an AI bubble burst. But on that point of TSMC showing earnings, there was another company, Micron Technology, that got a nice 5% boost from analysts raising their price targets as well. So at least some analysts in the market thinks there are companies that are going to continue to grow, and we'll see how it plays out with the Q3 earnings. But I found a interesting discussion here coming out from here on Reddit about what happens when this AI bubble bursts, if it does, right? Is there some sort of big, domino effect where it touches NVIDIA first and then just kind of all collapses from there? But interesting discussion here from Reddit, but basically saying maybe the AI bubble won't burst because the US is betting absolutely everything on AI and it won't be allowed to burst, right? They do something to not let it happen. And I thought that was an interesting point. And just overnight, actually, there's been volatility in the markets. About 3 a.m., things were starting to sell off, and now it's coming back here early in the morning. But on that point of the United States not letting it burst, there was so much fear around the China tariffs, and already President Trump has come out and says that the threatened high tariffs on China are not sustainable. And he came out and said that the number is what it is, but it's not sustainable. So he eased fears of further trade escalation between China and the United States. And he says he thinks we're going to do just fine with China. So personally, I don't think it's something that it's going to be a standoff between the two countries. It seems like he doesn't want to let it happen either. And on the back of news of this, S&P 500, the Dow, NASDAQ futures are all recovering as Trump sues investors' worries and all these things. But going back to X here, a lot of investors see this fear and greed, and this was only on the backs of a 2% dip on Friday and a slightly dip overnight. But he brings up a good point here, saying if it's extreme fear right now at almost all-time highs, what is it going to say when there's a healthy dip of 10%? And usually, guys like Warren Buffett, or really the general advice in the markets usually is extreme fear is a nice time to start thinking about being aggressive with buying stocks. But right now it seems like there could potentially be more to come, as these things escalate, but we'll see. And this is a good point as well. If you don't believe a 10% dip is coming, it could be because the markets and the AI bubble is not quite at the point, not even close to what it could be. So that if you're standing on the other side of the table, this is a good point that during the .com era, the SPY traded at 60 times earnings, and we're only at currently 26 times. So that was some good perspective. So it will be interesting to see how this all plays out in the next few months with rate cuts coming. You have the government shutdown, you have China tariffs, you have Q4 earnings, Q3 earnings, you have the banks topic in discussion. So there's a lot going on right now, and I do advise you to keep an eye on this fear and greed index and see where it goes, because it's a useful indicator as an investor to look at. So let me know what you think in the comments, and subscribe for more videos.